my name is Abby O'Leary, and this is my presentation on National Students of AMF. National Students of AMF was founded in 2004 by David Feigenbaum, who was a Raleigh native and at the time was a student at Georgetown University. Early in his time at Georgetown, his mother was diagnosed with cancer. She eventually passed away, and he founded the organization in response to this experience as a way to provide peer support and to gain peer support from others who were going through a similar situation. From those humble beginnings in 2004 at Georgetown, the organization has grown over the last 10 years and currently operates 44 chapters at universities across the country, including NC State, UPenn, UCLA, and many others. The mission of the organization is to support college students who are grieving the illness or death of a loved one. Interestingly, if you go on the website or do research, the organization doesn't have a vision statement. Instead, to sub in for that, I included the strategic priorities of the organization, which were outlined in a 2013 document, which is published and available on the website. And the 5 strategic priorities of the organization, according to this document, are to develop and strengthen chapters, to conduct research and national programs to facilitate greater support for those chapters, to expand and diversify funding so that the organization can be sustainable, to raise awareness about the organization and the needs of grieving students more generally, and to ensure the continued infrastructural strength of AMF. The infrastructure that they refer to is a small one. The small staff right now includes a board chair, founder, so that is David Feigenbaum, and he serves as a volunteer or an unpaid staff person in an executive director role. The 2 paid staff are a volunteer coordinator and a director of chapter development. The funding for the organization is really based on individual gifts, specifically from a small circle of donors who are based in Raleigh and have connections to the Feigenbaum family. That was how the organization got started, and those individual donors have really continued to be the engine of the organization. Although recently, the organization has made some attempts to start more grassroots online fundraising, and has also had some corporate and grant support, such as a large gift from the New York Life Foundation, but that kind of support has been pretty limited over the last few years. The way that organization uses volunteers is in kind of 2 main ways. First, at the chapter level, local chapter leaders will set up or run an already existing chapter of AMF on their campus. So there will be 1 or 2 student leaders who are sort of the president. They'll facilitate weekly or biweekly support meetings, and they may also organize and get involved in off-campus volunteer activities with bereavement organizations such as Comfort Zone Camp, which does free camps for kids whose parents have passed away. At the national level, apart from the local chapters, the organization manages and maintains a high number of boards. So in addition to their fiduciary board of directors, they have a board of mental health professionals, a board of advisors, a board of alumni student leaders, and a volunteer executive leader board, which is a lot of different bodies to be managing and engaging. And I thought it was really interesting that that was how they chose to set up their national volunteer opportunities. The way I collected data was from 4 main sources. So first, being a college student-driven organization, I looked at social media. You can learn a lot about an organization like this just from looking at Facebook or checking out their Twitter feed. I also did look at some more traditional print news articles. I did an interview with Kristen Stufuriak, who was the former national program manager. At the time that I spoke with her, she was still in the position, and shortly after our conversation, she left the organization. And then lastly, I looked at the website and supplemental materials, the kinds of things that you could find online. And what I found were a couple of different things. There's a very strong, committed volunteer base. The people who get involved in this organization love the mission, have a strong connection to either the founder or the experience of having a parent who's ill or having a parent who passes away during college. Given that, all that passion, it's really hard to find a description of formal volunteer roles on the website. They don't really divide the kind of work to be done in clearly understandable roles. There are no volunteer assessments that are institutionalized. There is very high turnover because the college students who are involved obviously graduate. Um, if you're not a chapter founder, there are limited formal roles on campus for you to get involved. You basically have to be selected or picked to take over after a chapter founder graduates. Additionally, there are very few opportunities to recognize the organization's volunteers, in part because it's so decentralized, although there is one opportunity each year to attend a national conference free of charge. Um, as I mentioned before, sometimes these students will go out into the community and volunteer, but those efforts are pretty inconsistent. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't, despite the fact there are a lot of really, you know, easy to do volunteer opportunities with hospices and local bereavement camps that are so clearly aligned with the organizational mission. Um, there's, in general, all of this kind of points to the fact that there's greater communication, engagement, guidance, and resources that are needed from the national organization. But these resources will only come if the funding is there. And right now, the lack of volunteer fundraising initiatives really threatens the overall health and stability of the organization. Um, Conclusions and implications, I have three main ones based on the literature as I sort of look at AMF and compare it to what I've read. The first is that college students who get involved in volunteering really do it in part to build social capital. They want to build connections and gain new skills and gain the experience that volunteering offers. And right now, there's not a lot of support for those volunteers to get that kind of experience. So stronger internal support is really needed. Secondly, non-required volunteer work like this that's done at the college level, that's not mandated by the college or by a course, tends to engender really, really strong feelings of connection to the work or to strengthen the feelings if they're already there. This is clearly the case for students of AMF, and so I would really encourage them to benefit and build on, kind of capitalize on that strong personal connection by encouraging more individual fundraising among members to keep the organization going. Lastly, as I mentioned, the advisory board structure is sort of multi-pronged. There are many different advisory boards. And the organization, if it wants to kind of retain and attract advisory board members, has to really look at how they build affinity with both alumni and new connections. So in the higher education research, a lot of work has been done on advisory boards, and there's definitely different ways to build organizational affinity and to get people to commit to the organization, depending on whether they were an alumnus who was involved or whether they're new to the organization and maybe came in through another route. So I'm very much looking forward to finishing this project, and thanks for checking out my presentation.